Hi, and welcome to Movies Suck. I released a video a couple of weeks ago about Anne Boleyn, the Channel 5 psychological drama that race-swapped Anne Boleyn for a black woman. And yeah, that went about as well as you can probably imagine it would have gone. But Eve Hedderwick Turner is not finished with this particular series of programs because she actually wants to make a sequel. Let's read further in the story and you'll see where this is going. Before I do that, please consider subscribing as that would really help me out. And if you like the content, leave a like. Alright, on with the story. Anne Boleyn creator wants a sequel focused on Henry VIII's fifth wife. Anne Boleyn screenwriter Eve Hedderwick Turner says she finds teenage Tudor Queen Catherine Howard really interesting. And I can hear you all groaning, even from here. Even if you're maybe 10,000 miles away, I can feel the dismay. Anyway, let's read. So, creator of Channel 5 psychological thriller. Really? There was that one scene in episode 2 where she's hearing the voices and things that could kind of give you the impression of being slightly psychological, but that's about your lot. Yeah, the filmmakers didn't know what they were doing particularly. The creator of Channel 5 psychological thriller Anne Boleyn says she hopes to pen a follow-up series about another of Henry VIII's sixth wives, Catherine Howard, who was beheaded like Anne before her. I wonder why they want to cover the one that was beheaded again. What was wrong with covering, I don't know, Jane Seymour, who just died? Or Anne of Cleves, who was, just kind of not wanted. I have a theory that perhaps, and they might want to make this, perhaps Anne of Cleves was actually trans, and she was actually a man that had been transitioning to a woman, and surely that's the perfect subject for them. That kind of explains why Henry VIII and everyone else thought that she was not particularly attractive. Maybe I'm wrong, but let's carry on. Speaking exclusively to Radio Times, screenwriter Eve Hedderwick Turner also said that she would hope the potential series would feature a diverse cast. You didn't think we were going to miss that, did you? Of course it was going to feature a diverse cast. Similar to three-parter Anne Boleyn, which casts black actress Jodie Turner-Smith as the titular queen. Yeah, of course that's what she wanted to do. I wonder what nationality she wants to cast Catherine Howard as. Certainly not English. I'm sure that doesn't even come close to her interests. I imagine it would be, well, who knows. Anything except the correct colour, I imagine, would be her favourite. Anything except the type of people that lived in England back then. Now, I'm not saying there weren't any coloured people, let's say, in Tudor England. I actually know for a fact there were a few, mostly from North Africa type of area, which isn't that dark. But there were a few, but they weren't in these sorts of positions. Anyway. Asked if she would be interested in writing a follow-up series, Hedderwick Turner said, "There are plenty of stories, and what is really interesting is he, Henry, was not well. There's many victims of his lifetime, and it's definitely of interest to me. Watch this space." She continued, "There are a couple of Tudor figures that I find really interesting. I think Catherine Howard, who was the second one to be beheaded, is always a really interesting figure to me because she sort of just becomes number 2 to have her head chopped off, and it appears to unfold in a similar way to Anne Boleyn, with accusations of adultery and treason, but she was so young. She was really young. I think she was still possibly just 19 when Henry VIII murdered her. So absolutely disgusting, based on her cheating on him with other men. Terrible double standard, what with Henry VIII having so many mistresses and things, but different era, complete psychotic king. A very interesting story, but I have very grave doubts that this particular person could write anything that would be interesting to anyone else. Possibly it'd be better than Anne Boleyn. I mean, Anne Boleyn was basically the first thing she ever wrote, and it got picked up straight away, probably because she was saying, why don't we do it with a diverse cast? Let's tokenize people. So I imagine the film industry were like, yes, we want to tokenize people, because that's the kind of people they are. Well, when they're not, getting busy with their paedophilia rings and everything else, but so, there's some grey sort of areas around her. Catherine's actual real age, but she's most likely 17 when she's married to Henry, who's by then around 50, and she's 18 when she's murdered. So to me, if I was to lean into telling a story, it feels like quite an interesting opportunity to explore a coming-of-age sexual exploration story with a really dangerous backdrop. It would be an interesting story, and it's worth telling, but I'm not sure this is the right person to tell it. Certainly not after making something like Anne Boleyn, which was It was egregious in its terrible casting, acting. There was almost nothing good about that, especially historical accuracy. I can't imagine this particular person could even get close to managing historical accuracy. Admittedly, they said they were making historical fiction in the Anne Boleyn series, which, if we take the historical out, is precisely what they did. Just fiction. Not really interested in history, not really interested in getting anything vaguely correct. Just complete fiction. Let's take this person and her general situation, let's make something new out of it. Something not really related to what happened, because we don't want to confuse people with thinking we're doing something historical. It's just pathetic. Would a series about Catherine Howard replicate the identity-conscious casting choices seen in Anne Boleyn? I think so. I mean, what I think has been really successful with those casting choices is creating a sort of community on screen that feels fresh and more contemporary, she said, as she attempts to replicate London in the 15th century, 16th century. It's just sad. It's sad and desperate. Look at me, look at me. Please look at me and give me a really good career, pay me lots of money for doing what is clearly just a load of tokenizing bullshit. Really is. Just trying to get attention. If you're going to do this, do it properly, make some effort to be historically accurate. And then we can support you. Did Anne Boleyn do well? No. It was panned, it was beaten by episodes of Vera. Coronation Street beat it in the ratings. Everything beat that just about everything beat that program in the ratings when it was on TV, and it dropped off quickly. So is it worthwhile? No one wants to see it. They clearly showed you that by not watching it. She continues, I feel really hopeful that we're going to bring new audiences to this piece of history because of that casting. Yeah, right. She continued, and it's definitely, I think, the way to go with telling these stories, which often feels like they've been repeated a lot. And if we're going to do them again, they need to have that fresh new take and a new lens through which to tell them. No, they need to be done accurately. They need to tell the actual story. They need to make sure that what they do is really attempting to bring to screen what happened. Get people that are as similar to those people as possible, not with random skin colours on screen all over the place, as if we're just looking out at modern London or any modern city in the world these days. That sort of thing is not historically accurate. How would she feel if we replace Shaka Zulu with, I don't know, any old white guy? Replace all of the African stories with white people instead. Does it matter? You don't need to put black people in them anymore, do you? Who cares if they're not represented on screen? Who cares if you don't represent the culture that you're trying to control? Who cares if you don't actually give a historically detailed story? Who cares? It really doesn't matter to you people. I'm getting angry because it really pisses me off that they just don't care. This stuff is important. This is our history. We want it represented properly, in a dignified way that tells the actual story, gives details, makes us think, wow, I really want to read more about this and learn more about Tudor history. Not go, what the bloody hell is this? What is this? What is this supposed to represent? Because it certainly doesn't represent the historical events. And they'll say, oh, we only changed the skin colour. Yeah, that takes you completely out of the historical event, because you don't feel like you're learning about what happened. You feel like you're looking at some modern drama. Could be anywhere. Perhaps you just picked the people in it at random at school. Could have been some school play. It's pathetic. We can only hope that this doesn't happen, because we don't need any more of this crap. We need to start working our way back towards normality, working our way back towards the 80s and 90s, when things are actually going pretty well on the whole. Because let's face it, the 21st century has been one hell of a shit show as far as this thing goes, as far as any of this goes, as far as Hollywood goes, or any of these woke medias. And we've had enough. We need a return to the way things used to be, and a return to sense and normalcy. Not this sick, woke nonsense. This has been Movies Suck, signing out. Leave a like, share, subscribe. I will catch you guys on the flip side.